It has been so long since I have made a video. I forget how to start even making a video. I don't know what I'm doing right now. Is my camera even on? Yeah, it's on. Oh, guys, I don't even know where to begin. What was supposed to be a really small problem with my Gixxer turned into this huge fucking ordeal that has pretty much taken up over half the summer, which I'm not happy about, to say the least, because here in New England, summer's like pretty much the only good time you have to ride. So, let's see. Going back like about 4 months, how it started off was there was a FI light, that little red light there on my tack went off, and I'm like, okay, what's that? Better have that checked out. So I checked it out myself, and it turned out it was an error code, which was C28, secondary throttle valve actuator, which basically the throttle valves are how the air gets into the engine, from my understanding. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm not like a mechanic or anything, so, but it basically controls the valves to the throttle bodies. So the weird thing is that part only goes mostly on 0405 Gixxers, from what I had looked up. So there's not a whole lot of information on how to fix one on an 06. So I did my research and I tried fixing it myself for like a month. And I was just way beyond my expertise. Like I said, I'm not a mechanic. I'm not all that mechanically knowledgeable when it comes to fixing engines and stuff like that. So basically after a month of trying to fix it, well, first of all, the problem also got worse, because it got to the point where, like, I would give it throttle, and if I gave it any more than 30% throttle, the bike felt like it was going to stall. So I'm like, okay, there's definitely something wrong now. And that's not, at first it wasn't like that, it was just showing the FI light, but then it continued to get worse, and so I was trying to figure it out. Pretty much I was like, dude, I mean, it would have been, first of all, it would have been cheaper to just replace the throttle bodies for some reason, instead of replacing the throttle valve actuator. It would have been cheaper to just get a whole new set of throttle bodies and replace those. And I was like, I really don't feel like I felt like I was going to break the bike more. But I knew the problem was that the throttle valves, or the throttle bodies, were only opening like 30%, then they wouldn't open anymore, which made sense because the problem was with the throttle valve actuator. So, that being said, I decided to bring it to my mechanic. And this is where the fun part starts. So, I bring it to my mechanic and tell him everything I know, everything I've done so far. He's like, alright, I have a set of throttle bodies, I'll go ahead and switch them around and see if that fixes it. Because usually it's a weird problem for an 06 Gixxer, but he's like, yeah, I'll go ahead and switch out the throttle bodies, that should fix it. So he goes ahead and does that, switches them, well, first of all, I wait like a week for him to switch them out. He switches them out the first time, and he's like, gives me a call, let's sprinkler. It actually felt pretty good though. So he gives me a call back after he switches them out the first time, and he's like, listen man, I got bad news. It's still doing the same thing. It didn't fix anything. And I'm like, really? Well, that's not good. He's like, yep. So he thought, since the throttle bodies he had put in were used, maybe They were just bad, and he would try putting in some new ones that he also had, which were also from an 06, I think. So he's now switching out the ones that he put in for some other throttle bodies, and this is all hours of work adding up, you know. He calls me. The second pair, well, technically now the third pair of throttle bodies that he put in still did not work, because he tried mine, and he tried the other ones he had put in, and then he tried this third pair that he put in. None of them worked. So he's like, I'm really stumped. He didn't know what the problem was, so he's like, next step is going to be to check for some electrical stuff. And I'm like, Jesus, this is already turning into a bigger problem than I wanted it to be. And originally he had quoted me like $400, you know, labor and the new throttle bodies and everything, and that should have fixed the problem. Did not fix the problem at all. So he goes in, he starts doing some testing on the electrical stuff, and basically traces it back to the ECU and tells me that the ECU is bad, and then proceeds to tell me that it's gonna be like $1,200 to replace the ECU. Like, no, let's not do that, because that was the price of a new ECU for this bike, $1,200. I'm not even kidding. Like, you can go look anywhere, you cannot get them for cheaper than $1,200. So ended up going with a used ECU, which was totally fine with me, because the way they sell them, they like take them off of salvaged bikes, and you know, they test them and make sure they work and everything, and it has a warranty, so if it doesn't work, even though it's used, you can swap it out for one that does work. So that ended up being like a $500 part, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, I'll go with that ECU. So wait like another week, I think it was even like 2 weeks, for the new ECU to come in. Like, all this time I'm waiting without a bike in the middle of the summer, and he finally gets the ECU and gets around to putting it in, and guess what? You might be thinking that fixed the problem, but it didn't. It did not fix the problem. It was still having the same problem. The error code went away, the FI light went away, but it was still having the same problem. The throttle valves just were not opening. And he's like, what the hell? And I'm like, what the hell? Everyone's like, what the hell? So now we're putting more hours into the bike and figuring out what's wrong with it, right? This is painful to talk about. So then he got around and he fucking throws in the other set, the original set of throttle bodies, because he's like, oh shit, are these wrong? Maybe it was the throttle bodies maybe the throttle bodies are bad. So he goes back and he tests all 3 throttle bodies again. All 3 of them are still broken. And he's like, so are all 3 of these bad? And then he goes ahead and he's like, okay, I have a set of 750 throttle bodies, and those would pretty much work the same on a 600. They're just a little bit bigger, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Put in the 750 throttle bodies. So he puts in the 750 throttle bodies, and it works. It works fine at that point. And basically, oh, I forgot to mention a piece in there. Somewhere in between all of this, when he's trying to figure this out, switching out the 3, I don't know, the 3 throttle bodies before he put in the 751, one of the cylinders was not getting hot. They're like, what the hell is going on here? They switch out the spark plug. It doesn't do anything. And they ended up finding out that the fuel injector for that cylinder was not putting fuel into that cylinder. So I'm not sure how long that's even been going on. I'm not sure why that happened, but apparently one of my cylinders just was not getting any fuel. So that was a whole other issue. And then he got around to putting the 750 throttle bodies in, and he's like, yeah, okay, it works. It just has 750 throttle bodies now. So it turns out, basically, I mean, like I said, I'm not a mechanic. I'm sure the YouTube comment section will have plenty to tell me about, like, how this guy ripped me off or something. But basically, from my understanding, what he told me, what he thinks happened was my ECU was faulty, and there was something wrong with the ECU, which is actually pretty common in these bikes from what I've looked up. The research I've done here, it seems like ECUs on these Gixxers tend to not be the most reliable. So something was wrong with the ECU, which sent, well, basically it shorted out the throttle valve actuator. Supposedly in all three throttle bodies that he switched out and put in there, which is crazy because, like, you're telling me that my ECU basically messed up these three. Now, that might not be exactly true. I think it's just the ECU was having a problem, but then he tried this new ECU with the three throttle bodies, and the throttle bodies still didn't work. The valve actuator was not actuating. That's what an actuator does. It was not doing it. So that was really weird. But basically, to sum it up, all the issues that ended up happening with this bike was, first I thought it was the throttle valve actuator. It was the throttle valve actuator, so the throttle bodies ended up getting switched out because you have to switch out the throttle bodies to fix the throttle valve actuator. Otherwise, it's just a pain in the ass to switch out only the throttle valve actuator. So, new throttle bodies, new ECU, new fuel injector, new spark plugs. I'm not sure if the old spark plugs are in here, but I know they did. They tried that. So that's what's been wrong with my bike for the past I'm not sure how long. It was just such a pain because it's like one thing after another, and couldn't figure out what was wrong with the bike. So that's why I haven't made any videos for, like, I don't know, 4 months, 5 months now, because my bike, I tried working on it first, realized it was way above my pay grade, and brought it to the mechanic, and even he was like, yeah, we get like 1 or 2 of these bikes every year. It's just like, you can't, you know, it's a nightmare bike. And I guess my bike was one of those bikes for this year. Apparently, I looked into it more, and I guess this is actually a pretty common problem with these older Suzuki's Gixxers. They're just, like, prone to electrical issues. Not only, like, with ECU and stuff like that, but, like, the stator can go, and the rectifier, and when that happens, sometimes that will short out the ECU, which can short out other stuff like the speedometer, and at which point the bike's pretty much totaled, because it's like you're gonna have to pay, you know, over $3,000 in pretty much labor. And I mean, if you're not gonna do it yourself, even if you do it yourself, it's gonna be over $1,500. It's a ton of work. You really gotta know what you're doing to actually be able to go through and fix all that stuff and diagnose it. Like, I was nowhere near being able to understand anything that these guys could understand. I mean, I'm glad to have my bike back now, but let's see, 4 months, and Oh yeah, so you remember how I said like $400 was how much it was originally going to cost me? That's what he quoted me. Well, the final price for this repair, as much as I hate to say it, like it really hurts me to say this number, $2,000. Actually, just over $2,000. Well, actually, I did get new tires put on as well, which I needed. My tires were completely bad and actually dangerous to be riding on. Like, they were getting worn down to the metal in the tires, you know, so that's no good. I had to get new tires. So it probably, the actual repair came to more like $1,600, $1,700 for this problem alone. The problem that was supposed to be $400 ended up being about $1,700. And then including the tires was a little over $2,000. So yeah, now I have my bike back. I'll be back to making vlogs. This is probably like the shittiest vlog I've ever made because I'm just like out of practice. It's been a while, and to be completely honest with you, this is a subject that I fucking hate talking about, but like I hate that I had to go through this, but hopefully it makes a relatively interesting topic for you guys to hear about. Now I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I have my bike back, you know, $2,000 later, 4 months later, but I'm sort of thinking about selling it because from the research I've done, it looks like this year Suzuki, I guess 06, 07, and definitely stuff before that too, is very prone to electrical issues and very expensive electrical issues like I talked about earlier. So if that's gonna be happening, like I'm not gonna be paying that much for this bike, man. Like I paid almost half of what I paid originally to get the bike, and it's like at that point it's probably worth it just to spend the money up front and get a newer bike that you're less likely to have problems with. And I mean, I think that might end up being what I do. If I can sell this bike and try to get something a little bit newer, just a little bit, because this bike, if I have that problem again, like if I had to pay $2,000 again, then I'd literally have spent I'd have literally spent over what I originally spent for this bike to buy it when I traded in my CBR. So yeah, I think I might end up going back to Honda or Kawasaki. Really anything besides Suzuki at this point. I mean, I love this bike. I love when it works, but if I'm gonna be having problems like that, that hurt. It's just not worth it. I mean, it's literally not like, it's not reasonable to have to pay that much to have to do those repairs, like what, once a year? I mean, the rectifiers go so often on these bikes. Like, my mechanic said that for every other bike, he'll change maybe, like, for every bike that he changes one rectifier for a year, he'll change like 20 of the Gixxers. Like, that's crazy. That's not right. There's something wrong. I mean, I'm sure Suzuki has improved and fixed the problems. I'd hope they have. Like, yeah, this is an older bike, but that still should not be happening at this point. That cop was like hardcore staring me down. Anyway, I can't believe how much that ended up costing me in time and in money. Like, time not having my bike and then money spent getting it back. I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be someone who's gonna be like, oh, that mechanic ripped you off. I really don't think he ripped me off. Like, everything that he explained to me made sense, and I I mean, I've gone to him before. He definitely has not ripped me off in the past. In fact, he's gotten me in there in the middle of summer to change my tires at like a last minute notice when no one else would, and he barely charged me anything for it. So he is a good guy, and his shop is generally good. But I think this is just one. I mean, if I had tried to fix this problem myself, I was like at the point of just wanting to sell the bike for parts, because I was having such a hard time troubleshooting, trying to figure out what I was buying all these new tools to try and figure out what the problem was. And I'm like, you know what? It's just not. It's not worth it. It would be better to pay someone to actually figure out what's wrong with it, because I felt like I was going to spend all this money on new tools and then still not know what was wrong with it. But at least I have new tools. Anyway, guys, I am back to motovlogging, back to riding my bike. I'm sure this video, I'm not sure how long this is going to end up being, but probably a little bit longer than I was hoping for. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe. Hit that bell, you know, so you see when I post videos every 3 months when my bike gets fixed. I really appreciate it. And if you've made it this far in the video, please leave a comment down below saying that you were part of the 1%, because in case you're new around here, according to YouTube analytics, only 1% of people actually watch my videos till the very end. So if you've made it this far, congratulations. You are part of that 1%. And I'm happy to have you here. I really appreciate you watching the video all the way through. And yeah, guys, I will be back with more videos very soon. Hopefully get back to weekly posting here, but at least you guys know now why I haven't been posting. This is the problem. This bike is like my favorite thing, but also my least favorite thing. So we'll see. If you guys have any recommendations on what to replace it with, be sure to leave a comment down below. Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here, ride for a little bit longer. I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, you guys ride safe as I proceed to run the stop sign.